Picture this: Friday, paycheck hit, you paid rent, bought groceries, filled up your gas tank, went out to dinner with friends, you earned it. It was a long week. Nothing crazy, nothing extravagant, you just lived your life. Sunday evening, you open your app and you have no idea where $2,000 went. Sound familiar? Because you're not alone. According to research, nearly 60% of Americans can't cover an unexpected $1,000 expenses out of their own savings. 60%. And most of them make decent money. 40, 50, 60, 70,000 a year. So what's the problem? In this video, I'm going to show you 6 reasons why this keeps happening and exactly what to do about each one. Because the problem isn't how much you make. The problem is that nobody ever explained the rules of the game to you until today. Quick question: how many subscriptions do you have? Think for a second. Name a number. Now, here's what's interesting. Research shows most people underestimate their subscriptions by 2 to 3 times. You think around $150 a month, the real number $340. And it's not just subscriptions. Food delivery, you think maybe $150 a month, the real number $460. Because just order pizza real quick happens way more often than you realize. Coffee every workday, $5 a cup. Seems like nothing. 52 weeks, 5 days a week. That's $1,300 a year just on coffee. Look, I'm not telling you to never drink coffee or never order food. I'm saying something else. Here's what most people don't realize. Hidden leaks are invisible one by one, but together they drain everything. Imagine a faucet that drips. One drop, laughable. Why bother fixing it? But that faucet drips 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. After months, you've lost gallons. Your finances work exactly the same way. $50 here, $30 there. A subscriptions you forgot to cancel, a phone installment plan you stopped noticing. Each one, no big deal. Together, that's reason number 1 why money disappears and you can't explain it. Here's what you need to do right now. Open your bank statement for the last 3 months. Find every recurring charge, every subscriptions, ask one question about each. If this subscription disappeared today, would I notice? If the answer is not right away, cancel it. Most people who do this exercise find between $50 and $150 a month that literally going nowhere. This isn't cutting back, this isn't audit. You're not restricting your life, you're stopping the leak. Now let's talk about a trap almost nobody sees coming. You get a raise, more money. You earn it, great news. And here's what happens next. Better apartment, newer car, restaurants more often, nicer clothes. 3 months later, you're back to zero. This is called lifestyle inflation. And here's what most people don't understand. Lifestyle inflation isn't a character flaw, it's an automatic process. Expenses always expand to fill the money available. Always. Look at the math. Someone makes $50,000, spends $48,000, saves $2,000 a year. Gets a raise to $65,000, moves to a nicer apartment, gets a car on a credit, eats out more often, now spends $63,000, still saves $2,000. Income went up 30%, savings, zero progress. And here's the real problem. Over 10 years, that person could have saved and invested tens of thousands of dollars. Instead, they just lived at a higher level. Both feel fine in the moment, but 10 years later, the difference is enormous. And here's how to stop it. Before your income goes up, decide what enough looks like. Not after the raise. Before. This is the apartment I'm happy with. This is the car that covers my needs. This is the lifestyle that actually makes me happy. Once you defined enough, every extra dollar doesn't go to an upgrade, it goes toward freedom. And here's the rule that changes behavior immediately. Every time your income goes up, automatically increase your savings and investment contribution by half the raise. Salary went up $800 a month, $400 goes to investment, $400 spends it however you want. You don't feel restricted, but you don't lose the entire raise to a lifestyle upgrade either. Here's a scenario. Tuesday, you're driving to work, your car starts making a weird noise. By the evening, the mechanic says, $1,400. What happens next depends on one single factor: whether or not you have an emergency fund. No emergency fund, credit card. 24% interest. Stress, debt. Emergency fund, you open the app, transfer the money, drive home. No credit card, no interest. No knot in your stomach. Same situation, completely different outcome. But here's what most people don't understand about an emergency fund. It's not just protection from car repairs. It's protection from the most expensive decisions you make when you're scared. When you get laid off with no emergency fund, you take the first job available, no matter how bad it is, because you have no choice. When you have 6 months of expenses in reserve, you can look what you actually want. You can negotiate salary, you can wait for the right offer. An emergency fund isn't rainy day money, it's freedom money. How much money do you need? 3 to 6 months of expenses. Expenses, not income. If you spend $4,000 a month, you need $12,000 to $24,000 in reserve. Doesn't matter what you earn. Where do you keep it? Not in stocks. They can drop right when you need the money. Not in your regular checking account. You'll spend it without noticing. A separate high-yield savings account. Online banks are currently offering 4 to 5%. Money is accessible in 2 to 3 days, but physically separated from your everyday spending. Psychologically, this matters. Money you don't see every day, you don't spend accidentally. How do you start if you're at zero right now? Don't try to save everything at once. First goal, $1,000. Just $1,000. It covers 80% of everyday financial emergencies. Then 1 month of expenses, then 3, then 6. Each level is a separate win, and each level physically changes how you feel. Here's how most people approach savings. Paycheck comes in, pay rent, buy groceries, fill up the car, go out somewhere, whatever's left, save it. Sounds reasonable? Doesn't work. Because usually there is nothing left. And it's not because you're irresponsible. It's because expenses always expand to fill the money available. We already talked about this. The solution is to flip the order. It's called pay yourself first. On payday, automatic transfer to your savings account. Before you see the money, before temptation shows up and you live on what's left. Start with 10%. If you don't notice a difference in your life after a month, bump it to 15, then 20. Here's what most people don't realize. Willpower is an unreliable tool for finances. By evening, when you're tired, hungry, or stressed, it's nearly gone. And that's exactly when impulse spending happens. A system doesn't get tired. A system doesn't get stressed. A system works while you sleep. Set up your automatic transfer today. Not tomorrow, not next paycheck. Today. Because the hardest decision is the first one. After that, the system runs itself. Let's talk about credit cards. And I'll start with something that sounds completely normal, but is actually the most expensive mistake millions of people make. The minimum payment. The bank tells you, you only have to pay $25 this month. Sounds like they are being flexible, like good terms, like they are doing a favor. They are not. This is the most expensive service anyone has ever offered you. Let's look at real numbers. $7,000 in debt, typical rate 24%. You pay only the minimum. Result, you'll be paying for 8 years and you'll hand the bank $14,800 for a $7,000 debt. Almost doubled what you borrowed. This isn't the bank tricking you. It's math. Compound interest, the same mechanism that makes investors wealthy, working against you when you're in debt. The only difference is which side of it you are on. The rule is simple. Pay your credit card in full every month. Not the minimum, in full. If you can't, that's a signal. You're spending more than you earn. Now if you already have debt, here is 2 strategies that actually work. First, the avalanche. Pay the minimum on all debts. Everything extra, throw at the debt with the highest interest rate. When it's gone, move to the next highest rate. Mathematically optimal. You pay the least overall. Second strategy, the snowball. Pay the minimum on all debts. Everything extra, throw at the smallest debt by balance. Mathematically slightly more expensive, but psychologically more powerful. You see the result. Debts disappear one by one. That momentum keeps you going. Which one should you choose? If you are a numbers person, Avalanche. If you need motivation to not quit, Snowball. The best strategy is the one you'll actually stick with. But here's what you need to understand. Every month that debt sits there, you're working for the bank, not for yourself. Every dollar going to interest is a dollar not going to your emergency fund, not going to investments, not working for you. That is future income you already spent. Let's talk about budgeting. Because most financial advice says make a budget, and most people try and quit within 2 weeks. Not because they are irresponsible, because the traditional budgeting is built the wrong way. It tells you what you can do. No more than $100 on restaurants, no more than $50 on clothes. Can't. Your brain experiences this as a cage, and eventually it escapes. Here's what works instead. Goals instead of restrictions. Not I need to spend less on food, but I saving for Japan by next summer. Not I'm trying to save money, but I want this credit card gone in 9 months. The difference is enormous. When your brain knows why, it naturally makes different decisions. You don't feel restricted. You feel like you're moving toward something. Here is how it works practically. Open 3 or 4 envelopes in your banking app. Emergency fund, debt payoff, one personal goal, a trip, a piece of tech, whatever matters to you. Automatically transfer a fixed amount to each envelope on payday and watch the progress bars grow. Sounds simple, but this works exactly where spreadsheets don't, because progress motivates, restrictions suffocate. Here's a fact most people don't think about. Money that just sits there loses value every single year. Historical inflation in the US around 3% per year. $10,000 today in 10 years has the purchasing power of $7,400 today. You spent nothing, but you lost over $2,500. Inflation is a tax on doing nothing. Your emergency fund, keep it in a high-yield savings account. 4 to 5% keeps up with inflation, but long-term money needs to actually work. Here's an analogy that explains everything. Money in savings account is like seeds in a jar. You kept them safe, nothing is happening. Investing is like planting those seeds in soil. At first it looks messy. You don't see results right away, but over time they grow. And 20 years later you have a tree. Not a handful of seeds. Now, let's talk about investing. I'm not going to tell you which stocks to buy, because you don't need that. Here's what most people don't realize. Over 90% of professional fund managers, people who pick stocks every day with teams of analysts, don't beat a simple index fund over the long run. 90%. The most powerful investing strategy is actually boring. Buy the entire market. Not one company, the entire market. That's called an index fund. S&P 500. 500 of the largest companies in America. Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, all at once. If one company drops, the others hold. If the economy grows, your fund grows. And here's the most important thing about investing. Time matters more than a month. 2 people both invested in the same index fund. Person 1 started at $25. $200 a month. Person 2 waits until 35, but invests $500, 2.5 times more per month. At 65 years old, person 1, $702,000. Person 2, $611,000. The person who invested less ends up richer, simply because they started 10 years earlier. Every year you wait costs more than you think. Not because you lost a year of contributions, because you lost a year of growth on everything you'll ever invest. Now let's talk about fear. The market will drop. It will happen. It's normal. Over the last 100 years, the market has crashed dozens of times, and every single time it recovered. Every single time, without exception. Here's what most people don't understand about market crashes. Long-term investors actually benefit from downturns. When the market drops your monthly contribution, buy more shares at lower prices. More shares at lower prices. It's like a sale. You're not panicking, you're buying cheap. Discipline is what separates investors from people who lose money. Think in decades, not days. So why you're still broke even if you make good money? Now you have the answer. Not because you don't earn enough, because nobody explained 6 things to you. 1. Hidden leaks are invisible one by one, but together they drain everything. Do the audit today. 2. Lifestyle inflation automatically swallows every raise. Define enough before your income goes up. 3. Without an emergency fund, every surprise becomes debt. Start with $1,000. 4. Spend after you've paid yourself, not before. Automate it today. 5. The minimum credit card payment is a trap. Attack your debt aggressively. 6. Money sitting still loses value. Plant those seeds in the ground. Start investing even if it's $50 a month. None of these rules require a high income. None of them require a finance degree. They require one thing: starting. If this video was helpful, subscribe and drop a comment where you are right now. Building the emergency fund, paying off debt, already investing, because knowing where you are is already half the journey. See you in the next one.